Hello, this is Jimbo from the YouTube channel Jimbo, South Dakota, and this is the Hog House Chronicles podcast. And I'm here with a good friend, Matt Nagel, and we are going to cut away from this right away. We made some video at his place. He's got some pretty cool decor in the landscaping and things out in his house there. So we're going to go cut to that right away, and then we will cut right back here. So enjoy the video. Well, we're doing something a little bit different today. We're here with Matt Nagel in rural southeastern South Dakota, the good friends of ours, Matt and Don. We go to church together and things, but we are going to, like I said, do something a little different. And they've got some great decoration at their place and a man cave. So it's kind of a man cave, and it might roll into like a hunting story or outdoor story edition kind of deal. So we're just going to wing it here, and Matt's going to show us the place around.
Okay.
And go from there.
I guess we'll start on one side of the yard and work our way east. On the west side of our house, it's kind of interesting. You don't see a lot of these in people's yards, but we have a vintage manure spreader. I actually picked that up a few years back from Ron Engelbretson, his family farm, and hauled that over here. And we get a lot of fun comments on it. It fits my personality, I guess you'd say.
So how long ago did you make the sign?
Same year that I moved the spreader in. A friend of mine had a friend of theirs that did laser cutting on metals, so they were able to do a favor for me, and then the frame in that I just made out of scrap wood that I had laying around.
And you get a lot of comments on this.
Yeah. Not for hire.
Would it still work if you had tires on
I don't know if the tires definitely aren't, but I don't know if the gearing all still works or not. But
this is exactly what my buddy Rex is looking for. He's wanting one of these.
I can't imagine filling those by hand and then taking a small wagon out and it empty in a matter of minutes compared to how long it would take to fill it by hand. But
yeah, I board his horse at my place, so I think he's besides liking old things like this, also wanting to be able to maybe help out with manure removal. I've always just drug it around with a tractor and stuff. And
it's amazing that it didn't just completely rot out. It was just sitting in the tree grove for, Ron could tell you how many years. And
it's in good condition.
Yeah, for as old as it is. And back then they made things to last. So.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, cool. And this deal, I bet this is seasonal.
Being the holiday spirit here, we wanted to do something kind of stupid. Imagine that. 2 weeks ago, we had to take out a large pine tree that unfortunately died. So until I can get the stump removed, I thought I'd use it for this. And just a couple of my good friends hanging out on the four-wheeler there.
So these friends are named, you were saying?
Yep, the front one is Wang and the driver is Pang. But they're not related.
They're not related. How'd you come up with the names?
It's a long story that probably is a little bit inappropriate, so I'll leave it at that.
Well, we'll see. After this, we're going to go into the Hog House for the
yeah, it might come out. It might
portions.
come out there.
We'll see. We'll see what we come up with in there. So,
I had the driver. I had Pang sitting out in a lawn chair one year here a couple years back for Halloween, and neighbor girl across the street was coming over to trick or treat with one of her friends, and they looked over at our yard and saw that. Kind of backed up, and next thing I know, she went around her house, grabbed this metal pipe, and they come over. We're going to go trick-or-treating at my house, but they were bringing a metal pipe to go after him with. I had to stop them, but.
So is this your first year with the Wang and Pang display?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. and you've got some hunting and out west stories with them too that will maybe
Yeah,
hit.
there's some good ones. And then we took the bigger stuff of the tree. We're gonna hopefully have milled out here soon, just into some slabs.
Yeah, we were going to ask you about this. So this is a tree you took down,
Yep.
but then you've got plans for it then.
Yep. Part of it, probably want to make a table, a new dining room table, and then maybe just siding for a new woodshed for firewood.
So for the table, would you take like one of the two bigger ones
Yeah.
and just take a full length cross section?
Yep.
Or maybe
Probably
put two of them together?
two of them together, probably.
You've got a garage you put up here a while ago, so do you have woodworking stuff in there?
Some. I've never built furniture. I mean, I've built a desk before that's just pretty modest and simple. Just out of old barnwood that I was able to salvage before they burned it down. I'm by no means a carpenter or anything you'd see on this old house or anything like that, but I always like to try stuff.
Not many of us are professionals at anything,
No.
but it doesn't mean we don't try and have fun, and no judgment, you know what I mean?
This might be something you recognize. That came from the park,
Oh, yeah.
the parish park. It'd been sitting in the weeds for years, didn't have any handlebars. It was kind of a yellow plastic.
When you first started talking, I thought you were going to say this is something you might want to try, so I'm glad you didn't do
you
that.
Hop on, it's pretty fast. No, it was going to get pitched, and then we never did anything with it. It just kept sitting back there by the field in the, back by the prayer garden there. And this spring I was back there with Ron, and I was just going to take it and throw it in a dumpster. And of course my mind starts, wait a minute, I could probably do something with that.
Yep.
And
Is the whole thing metal?
no, it's just a plastic
That's
mold.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun to preserve that kind of stuff.
I like to well, you'll end up seeing, I like to repurpose a lot of things I find and put two things together to make one interesting.
How about this deal?
Yeah, just old wood I had laying around, works good for a garden table, and
Meat stuffer.
yeah,
Or
make my
sausage
sausage.
stuffer.
I can't imagine.
Do you
using
use
that.
it?
No.
You want to?
No.
We could do that in the Hog House when we grind some meat.
I'm good. I'll buy Johnsonville.
And we're doing this beginning of October, so a lot of the, the colors and stuff have been going away out here, but there's still quite a bit of leaf on here.
It's been really dry too. I mean, it's hard to believe that we had a flood this spring or early summer. I love this time of the year though. Now it's cool enough today, the bugs aren't bad.
Yeah.
Built this little building for nothing else other than a smokehouse to hold my smoker. I got, in the winter, there was no, you put it in the garage and bring it out or whatever. It's nice having it just off the back door of the house just to have in there, and it's enclosed. And
That's nice. And got a table to work on in there and stuff too.
don't do as much as I used to, but
That is really sweet though to be able to do that. Do the smoking indoors yet vent it outdoors.
well, you don't want to do it
pretty
in
slick.
your garage because then, everything in your garage smells like it or your vehicle smell like it.
Right. Very cool.
No, we don't need to look at the garage. That's just the garage. I suppose about, well, it's got to be close to 20 years ago. When we moved in here over 30 years ago, the property didn't have any landscaping. They had a little bit of crushed granite up along the front of the house with some bushes, but so over the years we just keep adding more and more and more, and it's a lot less lawn to mow, which is nice. But about 20 years ago we put all this in. There used to be an old barn that sat back here, and when I was digging the hole for the pond, I realized that was where their garbage pit was. It was just full of old, just garbage.
Yeah. I see the wind's coming up here.
Yeah.
We'll do the best we can with the audio. That's pretty cool hanging off the back of your smoke shed.
So that's a couple years ago, how the story came. My grandfather had a farm-all tractor, and I always loved driving it. And I don't know how I came up with the idea of taking the grill off of that. And They're actually yard lights. I have 3 of them. I have one here, one behind you, and then one on the front of the cabin. And I just frost plexiglass, mount a spotlight in behind there, and put them all on timers. And it just kind of illuminates this big area, and this area. And I've had people stop and, at night, when that first turns on and want to know where I bought them at. And I don't know, I thought of that and
Yeah, that's very
just
clever.
made a few of them.
And to be able to light this place up too at night is pretty cool.
Well, we still live rural. I mean, we might be on the edge of town, but so we do get some critters in here, and it's nice to be able to at least see them. They're out here, but...
So you got a old sharpener over there too. I don't know if you can see that with the camera.
That actually works. My wife's stepfather was here last year, I think, and I caught him sitting out here pedaling away, sharpening his knife.
Nice. You done like hatchets and stuff on there?
I haven't done anything on it, no.
Very cool.
The stone is actually something I found years ago, and then the base, the mechanical part of it, we found at a antique store up in Minnesota. And I figured out a way of making them both work together. And
yeah, it looks like they're
it's amazing
meant to be.
that they used things like that back in the day.
Now, did you build these or
No,
find them?
that I did not. I think those came from a antique store in T. Someone from, I think, Nebraska made those. I've had them for quite a while.
Pretty cool.
And you'll notice throughout here in our house, in the cabin, glass insulators here and there. My dad had a collection of them hundreds of them that he picked up years ago that never used them for anything, and I've just found a way to implement them into different things, like a doorknob for the crib, to making lamps out of them. And so this is an old corn crib that we moved in 2 years ago, and it came from just a couple miles to John Sorum's farm. And so we took the top section and the cone with the telehandler and moved it down here. The timbers are old bridge timbers that I got from a neighbor that they were disposing of, and work great for a platform for the floor. It's kind of neat. You have to
We'll head in there.
Watch your head.
Well,
See
this
what I mean?
cuts a lot of the wind for us too, as far as its screen, but
so right above you on the antler light, and I can't tell during the day, but at night it's pretty neat lit up. This is one of the old stadium lights from the ballpark out at Parish Park.
Oh, really?
There was, if you remember, there were, 10 of them or something like that, and there were 2 of them that had some denting. So the guy that I ended up selling the other ones to for the church, he didn't want the dented ones, so I saved it, installed a fan in it, so now it's just a little box fan.
Right on the edge of town, get a little accelerator there. Get a lot of bikers come through here? Heading to Hudson? And
with Waddies down south,
Well, we got that 4-way stop just south of our place, and I like hearing the bikes, the crotch rockets, the Harleys, the muscle cars, all that stuff. I like hearing them scoot away at our place.
Definitely hear them down here. If it wasn't windy, like in the summer, you get 6, 7, or a dozen bikes going through, and it's just an echo down here. And a straightaway heading out of town, they love it. So
yeah, I've heard about this here, and other neighbors have mentioned it to me, especially when I talked to them. Said that we might do a little film down here, and they're like, "You got to get the corn crib."
We don't use it. I mean, I'm outside all the time in the summer. Don's not quite as much of an outdoor person as me, which is fine. But we have come out here this fall, brought the TV from the cabin out here, watched some football, and it kind of feels like you're at the game, you know, out here. And
Yeah, yeah, because you're outside, but you're semi-protected and stuff. So. Very cool. This top is in a lot better condition than what I was expecting too. It looks great.
And I put the whirlybird up there last year because you could, in the summer, you could, from sitting down to just standing up, you could feel the heat right here,
yeah.
and that helped tremendously. Just it, you know, just sucks it up. And
Well, I see here too. It's even got model number and stuff of the bin itself. You think?
yeah, I imagine.
It's pretty cool.
I think the discs, those came from Don Koopsma, so that was his donation to the crib. And there's no purpose for them. Someone asked me if they were like sound deadening devices. No, they're just field discs.
Yep. Decor.
But I made it to where each section, it's a panel. So if anything ever happened where one of the sections tore, the screen tore, I wouldn't have to replace the whole thing. I could just do it panel by panel.
Yeah. How long did it take you to put this together then?
It not long at all. It took longer to do the base, to get that level and together. To move it on here, it took us less than 2 hours with the telehandler, and then just anchored it down. And then the screen, I had the panels all made. And that was one of the few jobs Don and I worked together very well on, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, Mary and I, we've gone through our trial. We've gotten better as time goes on, but...
You get a little more patient, I think, as time goes on with each other. I don't know. But no, it didn't take us too long, and it's, like I said, not 100% bug-proof, but it sure helps. We get the gnats and mosquitoes so bad down here.
Right. Yeah, very cool handles.
You can go this way if you want.
We got a plow here.
Yeah. Used to have fish in the pond, but it was just too much of a hassle in the winter.
So you had koi fish in there?
Yeah, I did. Yep.
So what do they, koi fish in the wintertime? Do you have to take them out?
You can.
Anything,
I know of people that take them out and they just put them in like a swimming pool in their basement or a heated garage. I left them in the pond with a tank heater and the pump going just to aerate it. But in the fall, you can see the leaves already starting to go in there. The skimmer will take some of those in, but the majority of them just end up staying in the pond all winter, and then by mid-November, it looks like coffee. I mean, it's just brown water, and so it's a mess to clean up in the spring. And then when you have fish in there, trying to feed, fish those out of there. And
sure. I like the sound of the water there.
Yeah, when you're out here, just taking a break in the summer, and you have the waterfall, the chimes, a little bit of breeze, and
yeah.
You take some good naps.
You got the window weights around your fire pit?
Most people don't know what those are, but
we pulled a lot of those out of our place.
We were burning a school one time for the fire department years ago, and all of a sudden you just hear this banging every once in a while, clunk, clunk, clunk. And I couldn't figure out what it was, and then finally someone said, well, it's the window weights falling in.
Yeah. It almost looks like grapevines above us.
Yeah, I don't know what they call it. It's almost like a noxious vine, but I like it. In the summer, it's really thick, so it's real shaded here. And then I trained it. I guess you can train a vine to go around the pond and come over here just to take out the weeds.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had to take out a total of 3 trees this year. The big pine tree, large ash tree there, and then another ash tree here.
Very nice decor.
It's different.
And you got your horseshoe upright, so your good luck doesn't pour out.
maybe I should tilt that so some of it comes down, huh? It's a rustic look.
Then you've got a shed over here. I think there's some decor on, isn't there?
Yeah, nothing too fancy. I mean, there's another one of those tractor grill lights, and
It's a storage shed.
yeah. Just an old grain building. Sasquatch.
Yep, that's what we could see from the road, so I knew we had to come here and take a look. Where'd that come from?
Beersford. One of the antique stores down there had them. I wish I could say I made it, but I didn't.
I don't need to make everything you got on display. I like how you just go ahead and let it rust also. Looks
I don't
good.
know how, yeah, I'm not a fancy person. This is the woodshed I was telling him I want to knock down and rebuild usually have a fire pit going quite often in the summer, and just a place to keep firewood dry. It's starting to show its age, and
Gonna save the birdhouse there. Get a shot of that birdhouse. That's pretty clever.
So much what I have is just what most people consider junk, but I inherited that from my dad. Better do a ad for Johnson Feed
there you go.
Incorporated.
Plug.
Johnson Trucking out of Canton, South Dakota. You originated from Fairview.
So you want to tear this down and it just holds your firewood. So
Yeah, there's just,
what are you gonna? How are you gonna rebuild it? Well, you got an idea for design?
it'll come to me.
Yep, that's the way I like to do things too.
I won't hire an engineer to do any blueprints, that's for sure.
Well, this winter you can be daydreaming about it.
Yeah. Just a garden shed to hold garden tools. And you guys got to meet Kevin. I don't know why I named this Kevin,
I'm gonna say this thing looks interesting because there's wires coming out of the back.
So the same concept as the
Oh yeah.
tractor, as the farmall grill. It's actually a farmall hood,
Kevin.
and I don't know why I called him Kevin. He just looked like a Kevin, but I had to modify it a little bit. We got that at a flea market over in Alvord a couple years back, and it only had one, like this would probably been where the exhaust came out, I imagine, so I had to cut another one. To me, it just looked like a face, well, like this would be the nose, and so anyways, that lights up as well as the grills for the farmall grills. It lights up as well, and it looks like an alien when it's lit up. But
So have you used the large chair for any displays or big
no
Santa
purpose at all.
Claus?
No purpose at all for it.
Yin and Yang or Ping and Pang and
No,
whoever they are,
they
they haven't been
should.
up here yet.
I've sat in it a couple times, and you feel like Ruth Buzzy. Remember her on Laughing?
Absolutely. I think we need a shot of that.
No,
I think
no,
you
no,
need
no.
to climb. Come on, man.
I don't know if I trusted it anymore. When I was building it and got it set up, my wife was like, "What do you need a chair like that for?" I'm like, "'Cause you can." I mean, no. I don't know. Some of the stuff I have, you just shake your head at, but
We love it.
that's me.
We love it. All right, I gotta do it. I was at USD tailgating yesterday with some friends, and my back is a little sore today, so putting on my boots and was a little something. So that was a
Don't
challenge.
you feel like you're like 5 years old up
yeah,
there?
yeah. She would always like swing
And
her
that's
feet.
the truth.
Didn't she have a big old lollipop or something?
Yeah, the big flat sucker.
Oh, very cool.
And kids have fun on it. We don't have too many kids in town, but
All right, this is the outside of the thing that gave me this idea in the first place to come talk to
this
you
is
about
probably one of the best things I've put on our yard. I mean, as far as what I use, and what's inside, and it was always something I wanted was a cabin, and I don't have any land outside of town or in the mountains or hills, but Don Koopsma from church had a couple of these, and it's actually an old grain building just like we were at over here that we moved in, and the doors were right here. Well, we framed those up for windows and then cut in another door, and then insulated the floor, insulated the roof and walls and everything, and then it's all heated. I just pulled the air conditioner out, but it has air conditioning, Wi-Fi. It can have running water if you hook a hose up to the back end, just like a camper would. It's just a place, we don't have a nice enough basement to finish off to a family room. So it's kind of my man cave family room area.
Uh-huh. So you've got decoration around it. You a Nebraska fan?
Well, that and my last name starts with an
yeah.
N too, but
Last name. It wasn't painted red,
that's
so.
okay. I'm from Nebraska, so you have to be a Nebraska fan.
Yeah,
but
pretty much.
This year it's not as painful to be one as it has been.
Right.
And nothing really over here. This is about where the property line is. We're sitting real, we're almost right on it. So
Got your propane heat, landscaping.
but you see a lot of those grain buildings around that just you're kind of rotting away. They built them so well with 2x6 walls and to hold the weight of the grain, and
Like the sign there.
it's a little faded. And every guy has to have an outhouse, so this is only one that you can only do one of your businesses in. But it's sure nice in the summer. You don't when you're all sweaty and
I think that's all the further I'll go in there.
The #1 house.
yeah, the #1 house. You know what? I need to turn some lights on here, but come on in. So we'll go in the inside of the cabin here.
I've been in here one other time.
Oh, it's so quiet in here compared to outside.
Don't know if we need the door open for light or not.
It looks fine. Oh, you even have a bed up
Let me
top.
try the door here and see.
We can open up this drape a little bit here too.
There you go.
So yeah, it's hard to believe that this was a grain bin. It smelled like pigeon when we moved it in.
It's a little more roomy than what I remembered, because we talked about setting up some cameras
Yep.
and talking in here, but we decided to go to the Hog House after this. But
And it might
it's a
have
little bigger
been
than I remember.
like this table I made to where it's on hinges, so it folds up and folds down. But it's nice to be able to put that up out of the way.
I think that was down when
Yeah.
I was here, so that crowded it a little bit. It's an antique game.
So I got that from my parents when I was a kid. It's called pachinko. If I recall, it's from Japan, and it's a game that you see. I think they're still in use over there. I've only seen one other one, and that was just a couple months ago from our dog groomer. Her husband had one in the basement, but it's a game that you have these little metal ball bearings, and you put them down in here. Let's see if I can. Oh, you know what? I didn't even think of having this operational. Well, I can explain. Anyways, this drops down into this, and it kind of slingshots the bearing up, and then bounces back and forth. And if you hit this or hit these, you get more bearings.
Is it electrically run at all, or mechanically?
There is electricity on the back, but I haven't the slightest clue on.
Oh,
It's a goofy wire system. A few years back, though, I just took everything apart, cleaned everything, and it works really well now. I wish I would have loaded it with some of those balls so we could show you that.
very cool.
It's different. I mean, you just don't see these really.
Have you ever like Googled it to see, I mean, the value on the thing? And Mary,
haven't.
she resells on eBay and stuff. We'll
To
take
me,
some
that's-
pictures of that.
I
and
bet
just
that's
see.
worth a fair amount.
Yeah, I mean, getting that as a Christmas gift when I was probably 8, 9, 10.
So you've had it.
Oh, I've had it forever. Yeah.
Oh,
It's,
okay, I thought that's something that you found.
no. And see, that was this would have been my dad. How much my dad and I are similar. You know, not too many dads would give their kid a used toy, basically. But I don't know. It's just, to me, it's cool. And,
Yeah, that's
and
not your
as
standard.
a kid, my parents got so tired of that because when you do hit, you hit one of your pods here or whatever, it has a bell on the back, so it cha-chings, and
Right.
between the metal hitting, the bearings hitting the nails and the cha-ching going on, I have a feeling my parents wish they would have never gotten it for me when I was a kid, but it was fun.
Yeah, well, let's go over by the door here and you can just go over and explain the things.
Yeah,
as
a
you
lot
go
of
around.
this, I don't know, I've hit antique stores for years. And again, what I like, a lot of people consider junk, but some of this was from my dad. I like the insulators here, you can see pretty much throughout the whole place, but yeah, just like some ceramics my mom had done. The glass globe ball thing, that's actually a floating buoy or something, I guess you call it, from a net.
I've seen those where they have the net goes over top and holds it up.
Yep, those are hand blown. I'm not sure where I got that. I think on my trip when I was out in Washington about 10 years ago. A couple of the deer I've gotten, these are kind of the more interesting ones. This one's a 3-horn deer, which I didn't know it was when I shot it until I came up on it. But if you notice, it's got 2 horns here and there's a single horn here.
Definitely not common.
No, and then this one, you can see the left side is real paddled out, real flattened. And then the other two, the whitetail and the other muley, are just nice deer that
Yeah,
I had
very good size.
mounted years ago.
Yeah.
And everyone's got to have a jackalope in their cabin. I mean, that's just something you have to have.
The Hog House does not have a jackalope yet.
Well, yeah, but I don't have
Yeah.
a raccoon that spins around either. The map actually came from the old schoolhouse across the street from us. I actually have some of different parts of the country that have countries on them that aren't countries anymore. It's kind of interesting to look at how the change is.
Oh, here you go. Here's your meat grinder.
Yeah.
That we can have you use to get the meat ready for your
See, I appreciate
stuffer over there.
that stuff. I have no intentions of using it, just like the popcorn popper. I have no intentions of using that. I'll throw a bag in the microwave and be just happy.
How about these pieces? Where'd you find these?
It's an old Hoosier set I found in an antique store. It actually has the old flour sifter in it, still underneath here.
Oh,
So they would put flour up here and then sift it out. I do have this set up on a drain into the ground, but you can hook this up to a garden hose and have running water, which I've had my brothers up before, and just to give them some kind of running water.
And your heater down here, right?
Yep. Then matchbox or match holders. I don't know if you've seen those before. Those used to be pretty common around gas stoves. Can you imagine drinking water out of that?
Then the stairs. Where are the stairs going?
Well, it's a one-person access, but if you want to go up, you can see I've made a loft up there just with a simple bed, little end table with a light up there. you definitely don't want to be too claustrophobic if you're going up there, but
I love your light.
it actually isn't a light. It's just
Oh, really?
yeah, it's just insulators mounted onto what do you call those? Not a yoke, but for a team.
Single tree.
Yeah.
That's a single tree. Yeah, that'd be behind your horse.
Yep.
That the harnesses would hook to.
And then this is kind of a neat piece. I've never seen anything like this. I found that in Spencer, Iowa. It's an old kerosene cook stove, and they have. See them? This will turn up a wick to where you light that wick. Let me get this back on here. And then you put your pot or whatever up above here. All the heat comes right out the chimney. And then you can adjust the heat just by the height of your wick then. But there's a glass jar reservoir that sits here, drains down into this line, and then feeds each one of those.
Wow.
And several years after I found this, I found the oven for it, and that's what this is. I can't imagine using this to bake in, but that would heat up. I don't know how you control it, but as far as the heat, you know,
Right.
it to me it would be rather difficult. But it came with the original manual. So that's originally what it looked like.
That's pretty cool.
But I can't imagine how much heat that puts on. I mean, you can imagine putting that in this, lighting up. But there's recipes, and I was just interesting looking through that, and the fact that it was still intact was kind of neat. That's actually a deer Don shot.
Oh, nice.
Don's hunted with me a few times. And we learned after about 3 years that that's something that I should probably do by myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mary and I we both have things that we each do separately,
Yeah.
and then certain things we do together. It seems to be a pretty good.
Just like she should go shopping at the mall by herself. You know? I don't have to be with her 24/7. This is an old coconut that my dad got. Oh gosh, I can't remember where, but he was in the Navy. And why I still have it, I have no idea. But yeah, I bet that's 60 years old, probably. No, I think it's
I
dried
wondered
out.
if there was any moisture in there.
Some of the bottles and stuff I have are kind of interesting, though. You know, like your Black Flag insect killer.
My dad had
Oh,
one
I
just
haven't
like
seen
that.
one of them
It's
in
just a
decades.
powder. I won't do it because I don't know if there's still some in there, but it's just a powder you'd put in there, and I can't imagine it was harmful at all. But
Yeah, I'm sure they wore their masks and everything. too,
Yeah,
while
yeah.
Dispensing.
Is there a story behind the glove up there?
it was something my dad had. I don't know if that was his or not.
It's definitely an antique.
Yeah.
Speaking of antiques,
Have you? Oh yeah.
the phone too. The old dial.
Yeah.
Whoa!
So this was a.
Here I am messing with
No,
it.
that's okay. It's funny that this still says Johnson Feed on it, but there would be a peg in here, and you could take that to dial faster, I guess, or
Oh, yeah.
something. But it was a way to advertise then too, and
Huh.
yeah, I remember. I'm sure you do too as kids, having a 30-foot cord like that wrapped around half the house, trying to
Yeah.
get into a
Teenager
private
wants
conversation.
privacy
Yeah.
around the corner.
This is something too that just has amazed me. A planter. So you'd put probably your corn seed or whatever in here, drop it, and then it plants it.
Uh-huh.
Can you imagine doing a field like that?
Oh man.
And if I could find someone to tell me what this is,
Well,
I don't know if it's
funny
to
that you
take a boot
mentioned
off.
this. It has something to do with boots. We just got one of these for the Hog House. And, we talked about peeing outside, whatever. Well, sometimes there's a little wind or something like that. This is called the Boot Saver.
Oh my gosh.
So it puts it out there so you don't pee on your boots.
Are you serious?
I'll show you when we go over there.
I don't remember who I got this from. And they're like, I don't know what it is. It looks old. I'm like,
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
don't touch right there. Never been used. We'll assume
Yeah.
that's even better. That's a better story than I even thought I'd ever come up with.
I'm glad you brought that because I saw it sitting there and I'm like, I got to get to that story.
So what do they call it?
The Boot Saver?
The boot saver.
At least the one that we have. That's what that's called.
I'm gonna bring that into the house. You can tell someone handmade this because nothing's. It's not square. Someone.
Yeah, handmade,
Yeah.
homemade.
I wonder if there's still a market for that. That'd be something to
It might be.
keep your winter days busy.
Our boots, our feet are getting bigger, so maybe that's the deal.
Oh, I've gotten so many kids with this thing. Obviously, it's a skunk. But, we'll have kids in our yard and like, hey guys, have you ever seen my pet skunk? And I'm like, what? And I'm, you don't have a skunk. I'm like, just a minute, I'll go in and get him. And I come out and he's doing this.
Awesome.
And they get up, I'm like, just pet him. And they're like, no. I go, he's okay, just pet him. And then as soon as they get close, yeah, you go after him. And that's how I got it. The guy that sold it to me, he got me good with that. But
That's funny.
That looked pretty real.
yeah, when you move it like that.
Uh-huh.
You know what this is?
Is that blades? Is that kind of a meat cutter
Cabbage.
thing or cabbage? Okay.
This would slide in there. You put your head in and then just go back. That's how they'd slice cabbage.
Cool.
Very cool.
Not nearly as disgusting as that. But I'm so glad you knew what that was. That made my whole day. Trying to think of anything else that's different that.
Well, here's part of your collection here.
Yeah, there's.
The insulators.
Well, I've made like this here. Doesn't really have much for insulators, but I've made a lot of the black pipe lights. There is one insulator here, and then just an old ceiling fixture. But and maybe this is something you can incorporate in. I can send you some photos of different lamps that I've made, but
yeah.
you just wire them up and.
That's cool.
I've even taken an old heater and made a little nightlight out of them, and it's kind of nice when you're out here. And the older you get, the more chances of waking up in the middle of the night to go outside and use your boot saver.
Well, and when you're out here, you don't just want one big light to turn on.
No.
You can set the mood with a couple different little lights, and you sit here and read and relax, whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I read anything. If there's pictures, I'll read them. But yeah, the insulators. I think this is an old thermostat off of like a Model A.
Lots of cool stuff. Oh, and more insulators up here. Deck Declaration there with John Wayne next to it.
You gotta have a Duke, picture of the Duke in your. That old vise was my grandfather's. I mean, it's so primitive compared to what's used now. And then the ice, I'm just drawing a blank. You know, you'd strap onto your shoes to keep from slipping on the ice.
Yep.
I love that axe. The head on that thing is just
Wow.
Yeah, it's massive.
And you got the saw above the shelf.
And that my uncle gave that to me, and the story with that, my uncle and his dad, which would be my grandfather, they used that sawing logs for firewood. And I know they're not uncommon to see, but just to have that, knowing that my grandfather and uncle actually used it at one time. My grandfather built that cedar chest there years ago.
Oh, nice shoes on the top. Those wooden shoes.
I can't even
You gotta show
imagine.
that.
So these are, I call them my Asian thongs, but it's kind of racist, I guess. But my dad had these when he was stationed over in Japan. I don't know why he brought them back, but he always had those sitting out. And I just thought they were, I don't know, I can't imagine trying to walk in them. But
Interesting.
If they are like real shoes, you got to wonder, is it like for if there was areas where they had a bunch of shallow water and they could walk across? I don't know. I'm pulling at straws.
maybe
It's
there was
just-
standing water from using the boot saver, so they need to get up off the ground. These are just old pieces of driftwood I found out on the coast of Washington that I just brought back. That I just thought were really cool. That I urethane them up. But there's one I have. It actually looks kind of like a tugboat. I don't know if you've ever been on the coastline before, and just the driftwood that you can find is, some of it is just very cool.
So you got to remind me, you built this cabin here, or is this when you moved on?
This one we came from Don Koopsma farm. It was
That's
the
right.
grain bin.
Like the other one, okay. How long ago did you move this one on there?
Gosh, I'm really bad about stuff like that. I suppose it's been 10, 12 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet it's been 4 or 5 since you were showing this to us the first time. Somewhere in there.
This is kind of cool. This is for a pen. You'd put your ink in here, and then your,
Oh, wow.
I don't know what you'd call it, a feather pen or something like that. I wish I had the insert for it, but that's kind of a cool little piece.
Old books here.
Yeah, I've got one. So some of these mainly came out of the old school across the street. Up in the attic, there were just boxes of them. And this one's kind of an interesting one. The Elements of Farm Practice. And it's interesting to look through because the simplicity of what they did when this was written compared to having the equipment that they have now, that the autonomy or whatever that drives itself, and GPS and all that. If you were to try to tell them back then that that's what the direction they were going, they would never believe you.
Right.
It's interesting, I think, to look through some of those old books, the old school books.
When I thought about it too, with us, with the same scenario you're just talking about, thinking about 100 years from now.
Oh,
What can we imagine that would actually be coming true by then?
I don't know if you've ever seen one of these. I got into match holders, wooden match holders, but now it's not going to work. But the front of that crow has a sharp point, and it picks one up for you, so then you can, and then you strike it.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I should have wrote down where I found all this stuff, more so what I paid for it, just so I know if I ever need to try to get my money out of it. But
A couple different little hand planers,
Yeah.
different sizes.
can you imagine using those too? It's an old ashtray from, I don't know, it's Fergie's Cafe from Fairview. I don't even know where that was at in town, but I found that online one year.
How about the bell?
I found that somewhere. I wanted to mount it outside, but I got the no from Don on that one.
Well, in the military, if you're in the bar, you ring that. You're buying around.
Oh,
And there's different rules. Like if you walk
you
into
need that
the,
up at the Hog House.
well, if you walk into the bar wearing a hat, you know, especially a ball cap, somebody will ring the bell on you, and you're buying kind of thing.
Character of Don or Cody and I at a fair one year, which looks nothing like us, but it was funny to see happen.
There you go. You got to get a shot of this one here. I like
Yeah, I
that
found
sign.
that at a gift store one year. I'm like, I need that.
Without having their motives questioned.
That's
I like
funny.
that.
Oh, my dad had a cap collection too, and I didn't keep really any of them other than this one. Since my wife's from Wall, I had to keep probably one of the ugliest ones that were in the collection, but
Jackalope with pheasant tail.
I think it's so ugly. It's cool. This I made. Getting back to this post was actually a cedar post from out West River, and anyone that knows anything about deer, bucks, they like to scrape. And this one, you can tell how thick it is up top, and look at down here how much they scrape down, and it was just shadings underneath of it.
Decades worth of scraping.
Yeah, and the fence posts all along out there are like that.
Well, when I was here before, you were talking about, started telling me about where you go hunting out west, the trips accompanied and most of them not accompanied. And then I don't remember if you were telling me that, you would sit in this chair if you would watch hunting stuff or just reflect on the trips that you had. Because you were telling me while you were sitting there, we just started on some stories
Yeah.
back then. And that's why we're going to go over to the Hog House.
Yeah,
here in a
no,
little
that'd be
bit
great.
And get in front of the bar there and start talking about some of that stuff.
Okay. Do you need to bring the boot saver, or you said you had one?
No, we got one.
Okay.
We got.
Probably need 2 of them in the Hog House.
It might.
I want to make those for Christmas gifts for all my brothers. None of them wear boots, but
We'll have to check it out. The ramp on ours might be a little longer than that.
I imagine. That one came from Nebraska, so that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, you guys are
Well,
too
actually,
funny.
the ramp would make it so us lesser guys,
Oh,
better chance of
gotcha.
missing your boots. You see.
can't
So that
tell you.
story just flipped 180 when you're there. So.
I can't tell you how happy I am that I know what that is.
So.
Oh, here's another popcorn maker. I don't know if you. I've tried it once. Yeah, spider web on it there. And after you've had, of course, Century Theater popcorn, and you gotta try to make it. And that's no comparison. I suppose if you're hard up for popcorn, it would work.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's head out there and
Okay.
do some talking. And
Yeah.
Okay.
She'll follow us out here and button this place up. I guess probably want to turn some of your lights
yeah,
off.
we'll get them. Yeah, I think
You ever
the
get
wind went
mail?
down. So I used to have that skunk in there, and when kids would come over, I'm like, hey, I haven't checked my mail, can you, or I'd put the flag up. I'm like, hey, the postman came, can you go check the mail for me? And I'd get them every time. They'd walk in and grab that lid. And
Well, this is quite a place you guys have
yeah,
here.
I don't know. There's a lot of people out there that are real vain, and they do a lot in their yard to impress people or impress the neighbors or to keep up with the neighbors. And I do it just because I enjoy being outside. The stuff I have is kind of quirky, but I like it, and it's my yard, and I live in Fairview, so.
Well, winter's coming, so we get locked up quite a bit. And, you know, just like the Hog House, being able to light a fire out there, or this cabin, to be able to come out and just be out of the house some. But
Yeah.
then when you got the summer and the fall, like we're in middle of October right now, perfect times to do what you said you were here doing last weekend, just tinkering around.
Yeah,
out
just
here.
having the outside to just be outside and enjoy it. And yeah, I go kind of stir crazy in the winter, and that's one thing I like about the cabin is that place. And then the garage too, I made that heated to where you just got to get out of the house for a little bit. I can't imagine living up by the Arctic Circle where it's dark half the year, and I don't think I could do that.
Yeah, it'd be tough. So, all right, well, this is just the first half. Thanks for showing us the
you.
place. Been looking forward to this for a long time.
Me too, thank you.
You bet. All right, we're back. Hope you enjoyed that video. We had a good time filming that thing, had a few laughs. I hope you did as well. And so it was also a little bit windy out there. It wasn't cold, but we figured for this portion we were going to come into the Hog House and film this right here. And basically what I'm getting at is like the man cave portion over there. For those of you that have seen the video, the tour of the Hog House in here, that's kind of like the episode 1 of Man Cave playlist, you might say. I might create one of those. But when we were over at Matt's place, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, I think I mentioned, showed us that cabin. And then we got into the hunts that you had done out west. So we just thought that get away from some of the other formats that we've done and do the man cave and hunting story start off. So
I'm a little intimidated now. I feel like Jim Shockey here or something.
Jim Shockey.
Trust me, my hunting expeditions are nothing like his. So
Yeah, and that's the deal with this whole deal. It's just, you know, these videos are just with your common person. You know, we're not all on the military side. We're not on the Navy SEAL stories
Sure.
and, you know, Jim Shockey bear hunts and
No.
and all that kind of stuff. But just learning a little bit more about what got you hunting out there. Your wife was from out west, so just go ahead and tell us how you
yeah.
started your hunting and where and why.
So my wife, she grew up in and just outside of Wall, just northwest of Wall, up by Cedar Butte, which is their homestead's probably 13 miles from Wall, and then they have land that's up to probably 30 miles from Wall. But never hunted much as a kid. I mean, we grew up in the country. We did some duck hunting, some pheasant hunting, but never really did any big game hunting until shortly after we were married. And a lot of people say this, but for me, truly, it's not just about the game that you're hunting. It's the people that you're hunting with and the things that happen along the way. There's so many years where you might get the smallest deer or not get a deer or not even get drawn and still go out there and have just as much fun as if you would have, you know, got that once in a lifetime buck. But yeah, it's been on and off hunting for me out West River for deer, I suppose 25 years or so.
That's all been rifle?
Yep. Mm-hmm. And there's some years due to just not, you know, scheduling and things like that I wasn't able to go. But the past, I would say 5 to 8 years, it's something that I save extra vacation time for. I mean, that's, and I'm fortunate enough to have a wife that will allow me to take 2 weeks off and be a little selfish for myself and not give me too much of a hard time. She calls it her Mattcation. So I guess we both benefit a little bit from that. But
There is a little slow on that one. I had the wrong screen up.
Yeah, that's always a joke, Don, getting her Mattcation. But it's just a time to get away and just get back to, I don't know, out west. It's it's just a lot different. It's a lot slower pace. People aren't in a hurry as much as you do see on the east side of the state here. And the terrain that we are fortunate enough to hunt in, or truly blessed to hunt in, is beautiful out there. It's before the show here, we were talking about where we live in Fairview. We're kind of down in a bowl, so we don't get to see a lot of the sunrises and sunsets. And out there where we hunt and camp, it's you get to see that every day, and it's just beautiful.
So has it been mostly muleys?
It's changed over the years. The past couple, probably 3 or 4 years, it seems like the whitetail population has been the dominant species. Primarily, it was mule deer, and if you got drawn with the whitetail tag, you were like jinxed. It's like, great, now I know exactly where I'm hunting because that's the only place there's whitetail, and now there's whitetail where there never used to be. But and they're kind of different to hunt. Mule deer are, especially when they're in the rut, typical guys chasing females. They're not the brightest. And where whitetail are a little more skittish and alert, it seems like, than the mule deer. But when you see the size difference, not only in the racks, but just in the sheer body size difference between the two is amazing when you get two of them beside each other.
Did your dad hunt and stuff, and did he get you started, or how'd that
No, my dad did hunt earlier, probably when we were much younger kids, to where I didn't really remember. And from what I was told, he said the last time he hunted, he had injured one, and it was a long chase for it, and it wasn't injured enough to where he dropped it right away, and it just kind of took the fun out of it. The older he got, and I find myself being this way, the older I get, the less you like seeing things suffer. I mean, not that you ever enjoyed it, but to see an animal suffer in any way, it starts to get to you. I don't know if that just comes with age or what, but
yeah. Well, I've heard that from other people before.
So yeah, he didn't hunt really much when we were kids. We would go out, I know, when we were younger and shoot a little bit with him, but my grandfather and uncle, they were more in the hunting and fishing, so we gained some of those characteristics, I guess, from them and traditions. And to this day, the gun I use is the one I use because that's what my grandfather used. That's why I bought that. Most guys wouldn't have bought a 30-06 just for deer hunting, but again, that's what my grandfather used, and I don't know.
Well, you can tell by looking at your place, that video that we made over there, and the outside and inside of the cabin, the old things, the things you're preserving, the antique type things, that goes right along with what you're saying there, and appreciating the old days, the old ways, and the nostalgia with your own family.
Well, I'm glad I was raised the era that I was raised in. I mean, you hear old school and stuff like that, and I think there's still enough of that in our era that you can appreciate what others went through, just with some of the the machinery and tools that we were looking at, or that you have here in the Hog House, that we have it so easy now with what we have for machinery and tools. And
yeah, so if we process a deer in here, we'll be using the 1-horsepower grinder, not your hand grinder,
right,
and the stuffer that we talked about over there.
I probably wouldn't be using either. I would take it to the locker and have it done. But
well, we're just learning how to do it here, so we've got a few things bought, but buy some seasonings and such.
Yeah.
But, and you've got a son, Cody.
Yep.
And he just stopped in when we were finishing filming
him and his
over
wife,
there.
Caitlin, just stopped in, and which was nice to see them. They moved back this summer in July, and they're in Sioux Falls now, so getting to see them more than once or twice a year has been great.
Because they've been gone for how many years?
10 years. They were
10 years.
And it's still hard to remember that they're that close. I mean, we, after 10 years, you forget, how easy it is now to see them. And so, no, it's been great.
That's why I didn't want to rush you, coming over here to do this
fine.
half, because we could do this anytime,
Yeah.
Kind of deal. But he did say that he had gone hunting with you out west there. About how many times do you think he went along?
Oh, I would guess probably 6, 7 years. He started going out with me when he was pretty young. I would imagine 5, 6 years old. And which in a way I'm glad he did. In other ways, I wish it maybe would have waited. I mean, that first deer that he saw me kill, for some kids at that age, it's a bit traumatic.
Right.
Especially with deer, because you and I both know they're dead, but their eyes are still open, and to a 5-year-old, they're still alive. And
They might have just watched Bambi last winter.
Yeah. But I think it's. I mean, I'm not saying every kid should go out hunting, but I think it's good for fathers and sons to go out and do stuff like that. Nothing against doing things together as a family, but just doing things like that together as a father and son. You might not appreciate it much in that moment, but definitely in the years later, he's commented several times, gosh, I wish I could go out hunting, when they weren't living here. And he's hoping to come out this year for at least a couple days to, not necessarily hunt, but just to be out there and see people and experience everything again.
Yeah. And you mentioned the times where you didn't get a tag and go out there. Are there times where you went out with like just a camera and go to the same spots or different spots? Have you done that when you didn't draw a tag?
I've gone out before when I haven't had a tag, and not necessarily with a camera, but with my wife's, brothers, stepbrothers, cousins. We get along so well. It's like seeing your brothers again, when you get to go out there, and we have a lot of the same dry off the wall personalities. So we all get along very well. It's a lot of fun.
So they're content to go out there and sit. Was it a ground blind where you normally?
No, I don't truly know how many acres they have. They have a lot of farmable, tilled acres that they lease out, but a lot of what they have are what they call the cedar breaks, where they're, real steep draws with the cedar trees that primarily aren't used anything for other than, cattle, for protection. But you find a ridge that you just sit up on, and you might take a nap. You might just sit there and glass for a couple hours, and you'll see, coyotes or eagles or even a magpie. I mean, just sitting there watching the wildlife. To most people, it's probably not real exciting, but again, it kind of unplugs you and recharges you at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, being rifle and out west, more of the open area like you're talking about, that leans more toward that. I always just had this little vision of like a mini cabin, like your cabin over there, and you have it outfitted just right, and you're sitting in there, whether you're hunting or just taking photos or just
I'd love to have that cabin out there. Yeah. It'd be a lot more comfortable than the wall tent that I use, but no, we've never really hunted blinds. Actually, the past couple of years, we've probably done more truck sitting than anything, where it's warm.
Yeah.
It's
talking of that.
You're not exhausted from walking 100 yards and
Loser.
yeah, lazy. But again, a lot of it depends on the area that we're hunting, but it's so open out there in some of the areas that if you get up on a high area, and you can just sit in the truck and glass for a couple hours and move in if you need to, or stock if you need to at that point. But again, we're not or I'm not anyway, the Jim Shockey type hunter, right? That guy would not want to hunt with me, because it's more about the experience than it is the game, I guess. Mm-hmm. A lot of joking going on. I can admit that.
You mentioned the wall tent that you take. What's your camp like when you set it up?
So I have a Kodiak 10x10 wall tent. I mean, it's, as far as wall tents go, it's nice. It's easy for one person to set up. I did a lot of research on tents before I purchased one, knowing that, not only the weight, but some of them can be a little difficult to set up by one, if you're just by yourself. And I joked about it earlier. I didn't want to get too big of a tent where all of a sudden have people that want to camp with you, and you want just that one person type setup. And
Right.
but yeah, I don't rough it too much, other than I'm in a tent. I mean, I have it's probably a 18, 19 inch air mattress. So I'm not sleeping on the ground or on a cot. I have a Mr. Heater, Big Buddy heater that keeps it. There's been some times where it's gotten a little chilly in there, but nothing freezes inside the tent. And then I bring a generator along so I can run a microwave. And
Is it canvas?
yeah,
Okay.
waterproof canvas. And
Do you have to spray it to keep it waterproof?
no, that was one nice thing with this one. When you purchase it, you set it up, and then you're supposed to just hose it down just with the garden hose. And something with that, it reacts to it. But the seams and everything, I've had it for, I would say, 7 or 8 years. And some of the winds, I could definitely camp in a more protected area out there than I do, but I like being up so you can get out of your tent and just look around. But yeah, some of the winds out there get pretty strong, and it's held up very well.
It doesn't really flop around. It's
No,
taut enough, or
it flops. I
Does
mean,
it?
it's almost to the point of you can almost get seasick in there if you have, because I have cables running that hang towels or gear or whatever on to dry, and when that wind's ripping, everything's shaking in there.
is
But
it noisy too, or since it's canvas, not quite as noisy as what nylon would be?
probably not quite as noisy, but everything flapping around in there, you just get used to it, I guess. But
Does it have the hole like in the corner if you wanted like a wood burning stove? And just
I'd
send
have
the
that
pipe out?
option to put it in, but on a 10 by 10 with what I have in there, it probably wouldn't
Yeah,
be
you
a
don't want
little
to
tight with a stove, I guess.
get a little.
So.
Yeah. Well, and then you're hauling that, and they're
Yeah.
not light. Even the small ones aren't light.
No, and there's people that go to town and stay in a hotel, which sometimes I'm a little jealous of because they get a hot shower every day and a nice bed. But to me, it's again part of the experience. I mean, there's been nights where it gets dark so early out there, so you download a bunch of movies to watch throughout the 2-week period, and you're sitting there, and all of a sudden you can hear something sniffing around the tent, and you realize it's a coyote. And
Oh, man.
yeah, well, I've said more than that, I guess.
Yeah, I
but,
bet.
last year I had 2 groups, one on the south side of me and one on the north side of me, and I must have been through their trail or something, and you could tell they weren't happy. Well, then I just start making stupid animal noises and really kind of got them riled up. And the next morning I woke up and there's just turds all over the front of my camp, and
wow.
my honey bucket out front, they had lifted their leg on several times, and they weren't happy with me being there. But again, it's part of the experience. It's not for everyone, that's for sure.
Right. So where you've been setting up your camp, has that been the same spot most of those years, or have you been, is it like 100 yards that way or this way, or is it like different sections of land maybe that you go to?
Past few years, it's been the same spot. They have some land down right on the Cheyenne River, kind of the river bottom area that I've set up in, and it's probably, I don't consider myself old, but you start thinking about things about, if something happened, I'm 10 miles from the nearest house or 30 miles from town, and here a few years ago, I had hunted up by Kadoka. No, not Kadoka, excuse me. Oh my gosh. I can't remember now. I just forgot. Anyways,
That's fine.
but it was so far from town, and it probably just wasn't the safest, to be out on a four-wheeler and some of those cedar breaks. If you're to roll your four-wheeler or get injured, it wouldn't be good, I guess. And but lately it's been, you're still out there, but I'm probably 2 miles maybe from the house, if that. So you don't, if you need something or whatever, it's close.
Mm-hmm. But you're also secluded enough to really enjoy your
Very
your
much.
nap time.
And it's, again, living in, not that Fairview's big, but living in any town that you have yard lights and things like that in, you don't appreciate the stars until you get out in the open like that, and it's clear, and it's just a totally different ballgame to see the sky at that point. And I've had this is quite a while ago. I was camping by myself down by the Cheyenne River, and again, it gets dark so early out there, and I think this was even before tablets, so we really didn't have movies on our. Well, I don't even know if we had cell phones at that point. I remember reading a magazine till about 6:30, and I was like, I'm just going to go to bed. And all of a sudden, I got woke up to headlights on my camp and someone yelling, and you're half asleep, and you're like, what the heck is going on? And come to find out, then it was actually my wife's cousin came out there just to scare me, and which he did, but.
Not knowing you were already asleep.
No, he didn't. And this was like, 8:30 at night, so most people wouldn't be in bed by then. But yeah, he got me good. Go ahead. Yep. Whoop.
There you go. We'll each take a little swig here.
No, and the things you hear at night, it would, I've never seen one. We've seen, I've done some coyote calling, and I've called a bobcat in once at night, which was just unreal to see that close. And of course, it was out of season, but now on trail cams, we've got bobcats on there. But you talk to some of the ranchers, and there's mountain lion sightings out there quite often. And I guess at first my wife was not thrilled about that, but I think if we lived in an area or camped in an area where there were bears or wolves, that would probably get to me a little bit more.
Yeah,
but coyotes and
too.
bobcats, I'm not that concerned about them. But it'll give you a chill, though. I mean, I've had some times where you're laying there, again, watching a movie on your tablet, and then it sounds like it's just right outside the door. You'll get one that does like a challenge call or something, and I've flipped my phone before because it scared me so bad, and then I just start laughing because it scared me so bad.
Then it runs off.
Yeah. Speaking of wildlife, there was one year that years ago I had an old Winnebago camper that we restored. Redid the inside and the outside, and it was a nice little camper. Actually, I wish I still had it. And that's pretty much when Cody would hunt with me and Don went with me, because it was a little more, I can't see either one of them really enjoying being in a tent.
Right.
But there was one day that I was hunting by myself in the camper, and it was warm out. It was probably in the 60s, which isn't unusual out there in November sometimes. And so I had the door open, and all of a sudden I just hear this heavy breathing, like this. I'm like, what the heck is that? And I looked around the corner of the camper, and here's this buffalo head right in the doorway.
Oh, my word.
And well, I knew there was one down there because we were down there that spring branding, and the neighbor rancher had what he considered a pet buffalo, and sometimes it would get onto Patterson's land, but that's just not something you expect to be in the head or in the doorway of your camper.
Oh, my word.
So that was funny.
And you said Dawn has shot some deer out there.
Yeah. There was one year. She's still pretty proud of herself. She, I always would let her take first chance at like if she was able to shoot a buck, I'd let her have first chance at it. She wasn't the type that would go out and do a lot of practicing. So she was a good shot, but just not a comfortable shot. So I'd always make sure I was back there to back her up. And one year she shot a buck, and that thing jumped 5 feet straight up in the air, came down, and then I shot it. And luckily I shot it to where it was a lethal shot. We get up there and realize that she had actually shot I don't even know what you want to call it. She shot the nuts off of the deer, and I guess most people would have jumped like that. Most men would have. Yeah. But yeah, she was bragging about, don't mess with me.
Don't mess with her.
Yeah. So I'm sure that's what she was aiming at. But
Does she like to eat the meat?
I can't say either one of us are extremely fond of it unless it's processed into sausage or something like that.
Right.
There is a where we take it, and actually all of us that hunt together, we just combine all our meat, take it up to Wabe. There's a locker up there that they have a couple different types of sausage that they make, and yeah, it's very good. I mean, and she'll eat that. It just doesn't taste. I mean, to sit there and fry up a venison steak, that's not for no.
Yeah, there's an art to that.
Well,
and you definitely don't want to overcook it. That's the statement most people make. But.
Yeah, and the difference between a whitetail and a mule deer is huge too on the taste. Have you ever had mule deer?
No.
Even just when you're dressing them out, they smell like a mule.
So it's a lot more what they're eating compared
I think
to
so.
the corn-fed
Yeah,
deer
I guess
around
I've
here?
never had deer from around here, but out there there's crops that they get into, the alfalfa and the beans and stuff like that, but I don't think they have the grasses that we have out here necessarily.
You do the burger? Do you just get burger?
I have before. It's a different texture, and it's just the smell of it frying up is.
How about the whitetail though, or is that both? Of them
I
you
don't recall.
care
I know they both have a smell. Dawn's mom used to can it for me, and I loved it. It was a lot like roast beef.
Yeah,
It
stewed
wasn't
meat.
anything to look at because it was meat in a jar, but it was good. But one year I probably ate a whole jar myself, and then it wasn't food poisoning. It was definitely the flu, but I got the flu right after that, and even the thought of it now, I just
Yeah.
I couldn't go back. So Ruby, it wasn't you. It was.
Yeah, I got a friend that he's got family members or whatever that have done the canned meat thing.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to dabble in that a little bit more, and I've got about 25 pounds of meat that I need to grind yet. So I was going to offer you some burger.
Yeah, I'm
but
good.
Probably not. I'll just keep it all myself. And there's a place in Sioux Falls. I can't remember if it's northern something, but it's just off I-29 and 12th Street. And you go west, south side of the road. It's just right next to Hobart, northern something maybe. But anyway, they've got all kinds of flavors and packets and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to get a packet that's for 25 pounds worth of burger, and it can be, mushroom, jalapeno, all kinds of different flavors that they have. So that helps with it too.
Yeah, you hate to. I don't know. We've all been guilty of it one time in our lives or not, but you hate to waste the meat. You hate to take a life of something and then disrespect it by not eating it. And
there's other places you can donate to, and they feed the hungry with it and stuff. So I have a few guys that I know that do that, on occasion, when they've had real successful hunts and have a lot of deer, or they, even though they want to process one in a year, they'll donate the other one. So what's one of the most memorable shots that you've had?
I guess no one's going to believe this. I don't even believe it, and I was there, and I do have a witness. It was my son, and he was old enough that to this day he brings it up every once in a while. We laugh about it because it was pure luck. I mean, there's some guys that can make a 500-yard shot and be bullseye, and I'm not one of them. And the older I get, the shakier I am, and even with bipods or tripods, I'm still shaky. But there was a deer that we were following, and it just kept going away from us, and we weren't going to catch it. And so I had a rangefinder, and I ranged it at like 472 or 478, something like that. And now I would not even try it, but for some reason that day I said something like, God, it's almost 500 yards, 472 yards, Cody. And he's like, just try it. I shot and it dropped it. And we both just started laughing. I mean, normally
that
you don't.
Be 15 years ago or so.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. And it wasn't a huge deer. I mean, it was a nice deer, but the fact that I shot it and it dropped, and there's no way I could ever replicate that. I mean, my shooting isn't that good. I'll admit it, but pure luck. But
Yeah, back in the blacked out studio, I told you we've only filmed like maybe 3 podcasts back there, but one of them was a memorial for a high school buddy of mine that passed away, Bill Rodaski. But he had relayed a story. He was out hunting with his dad, who lives down by Nebraska City, so he'd go down there every fall because Bill worked 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off in Alaska. So, he was gone a lot, but he was home a lot. But then I do, in the hunting season, a big chunk of his free time down there. Sometimes his wife would go with, sometimes not. But he's hunting with his dad. And Bill is lining up for this long shot. I told this story on that one. And his dad's like, "You're not going to hit that. You're not going to hit that. It's way too far away." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to get it. I'll get it." So Bill lines up, takes the shot. And to hear Bill tell it was right away his dad's like, "See, I told you."
oh, gee.
And then Bill looks up and says, "Bullet's not there yet."
Oh, man.
And the deer drops.
That is a ways away.
So I'm sure there wasn't quite as much of a delay as Bill made it sound, but I love listening to his stories and things. So what you were talking about there definitely reminded me.
Yeah, and I don't care if people don't believe me. I mean, I probably wouldn't believe me, but I know my son was there, and he would vouch for me. But it's not something I go around bragging about, just because it'd be different if I was that good of a marksman, and I'm not. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was sheer luck. So
yeah, and I didn't grow up hunting. My dad worked on the railroad. He was gone all week long, home on the weekends. I did walk with him once or twice, pheasant, maybe once deer hunting as a young boy. I got a brother's 2 years older than me, 2.5, and he was there. So I didn't really do any hunting at all. But I've got a bunch of buddies, including some of the guys in Boston, to this bar, wood burned into the bar. So about maybe the last 9 years, but it's archery only. And I've got terrible color vision as well. So I can't really track a deer. I've got friends that I call on that deal, but I really enjoy it. But with that being said, without the rifle, I don't have those long shots. With the archery, 40-yard shot is a long shot that I won't take. But the shooting lane on where I'm at, a friend of mine, Rex, has a friend with some land that we're able to go onto. So most of my shots are like 15 to 20 yards.
Me too.
Now, with the rifle. Shoot right over his back. Yeah. But yeah, I don't, none of us like wounding anything and having it get away. So, yeah.
No, I've had some where there was one year and it still bothers me that I was shooting at, I don't remember if I was a buck or what, but I ended up hitting a doe that was behind it that I didn't see somehow, and realized that I'd hit it because you could see the blood on the back quarter. And by the time I could get up to it, it just kept running and ended up crossing the river. Well, on the other side of the river, it's not their land. So, and I remember telling my wife's, my father-in-law about it, and I felt awful. I thought I was going to be in trouble. I should have been in trouble, but I didn't intentionally do it. And I remember him saying, "Well, coyotes need to eat too." So,
well, one thing too, if it's still running away, using all four, maybe, it went through, ripped up some flesh.
Maybe,
but animals can really heal up well. So there's maybe a good chance that with some resting time that maybe that one healed up.
Thanks for saying that, Jim. I feel a lot better now.
Well, I have one to justify for myself as well, because 2 years ago, got this one, and of course, like I said, I had my friends out and we were tracking it, and he tracked it 3/4 mile or farther, but it got to where there was no blood at all. And I think it just had a little bit of a front shoulder chest deal, little slice across there. So there was some blood right away, but he was really good at tracking and really good at seeing that blood, and it just got less and less blood every 20 yards, 50 yards, it was less and less and less and less. And, it was probably 30 yards in between this drop and then that single drop kind of thing. So I'm just hoping that was closing up a little bit.
Sure.
And that the thing was able to
Yeah, you
survive.
hate to know anything suffered. I mean, some people have said, "Oh, they don't feel it." Well, I just have a hard time believing that. But
Yeah. And it is a true statement on the coyotes, but you just soon let them catch their own. But it happens.
yeah,
It's hunting, not harvesting, so nothing. It doesn't go perfect every time.
I had a coyote hunt here a few years ago with Don's dad. Shot one that was down at the bottom of this draw, and I hit it, but I hit it in the hind, for what I thought was like the hind quarters, because it just spun around and then took off to the bottom of that draw. And I don't know why I went after it. I went down there. I assumed I got it. I mean, I just assumed it died right there because I was using a 30-06 on it, and that would do some damage. Well, come to find out, it did some damage, but it didn't kill it right away. It blew out its butt because I saw its butt on the ground. I actually have a photo of it. It's just because people wouldn't believe me, and then you just start finding pieces of it throughout the draw down there. And then I came up on its den. There was a big hole underneath this tree root, and that's why I realized I didn't have a gun. I didn't have a knife. I didn't have a handgun. I just found a rock, and I got the heck out of there. I just didn't. That was kind of an eerie feeling, but for some reason that didn't bother me as much as the deer. Maybe because it was a coyote. I guess you have different feelings of coyotes out west than a lot of people do. But
oh yeah, no doubt. People hunt them a lot.
it's like snakes to me. I don't know. I don't have a problem killing a snake.
Never had a rattler in your.
No.
Tent? Does your tent have a floor in it?
Yeah, it's a rubber floor.
Okay.
I had a mouse one night. I always put a tarp down and then the tent just to give a little more protection, but it's got a heavy rubber floor on it. And there was one night I woke up, there was a mouse underneath that tarp, and it just kept digging and digging and digging. And when you're tired and you're just wore out and you got that constant noise, it was like whack-a-mole. I just kept hearing it here, and I'd start slapping it, and finally I just went to sleep, I think. But,
yeah, wore yourself out.
yeah, but no snakes. It's luckily cold enough. I never had any snakes.
Mm-hmm. How many deer do you think you've pulled out of that area?
Oh, geez, I don't know. I wouldn't even have a guess. There's some years where the only thing you can draw is a double tag to where you get, a buck and a doe, but I don't know if I've ever gotten those filled. I mean, just because I know there was one year my brother from Nebraska came up and hunted with me, and I ended up giving him my deer because they would go through like 4 to 6 deer a year. That was a big meat source for him, and we went to the local game warden and figured out what we had to do to get it, so we could take it across state lines and whatnot. But, yeah, I don't know.
Lots of them.
Yeah, I mean,
been going there for how long have you two been married?
Well, we've been married 32 years, and I suppose it's been, 20 some years I've gone out there, and there's some years I haven't gone, or I've gone to. My wife's stepfather or uncle had land out by Phillip, is where the town I was trying to think of before. Why I couldn't think of that was beyond me. But so I went out there for a couple years in a row here, maybe 5 years ago, and beautiful. I mean, totally different territory out there. But again, it was just so far from town that probably just not the smartest place to be when you're alone. Mm-hmm. And I still get the remoteness enough where I go now that I'm content with that.
So your trip's coming up shortly?
Yeah. As soon as it starts to turn fall, boy, you just start, I don't know. I just told my wife today, I said next weekend I'll probably start getting my totes down where all my gear is, and you have to go through it, even though when you put it away, you had everything you needed was right there in those totes that we take, but you still have to go through it.
So you're not a pheasant hunter? You won't be out hunting pheasant next weekend?
No.
Is that, I don't know if it's opener?
Next weekend, I believe.
For everybody?
I believe so.
So they've probably had resident only maybe this weekend, youth the weekend before.
Yep. something
Right in
like
there,
that.
something like that. Yeah.
I haven't hunted pheasant since I was a kid back home in western Nebraska where I grew up, and I never even enjoyed it then. I can see why people do, especially if you have a dog that's trained. The instinct that they have, even if they're not trained, is fun to watch. But I just didn't like. I just didn't like that you're walking, and all of a sudden, 2 feet in front of you, something jumps up, and I was never very good at it because I'd get so startled, and then when you finally realize what you're supposed to be doing, it's too late to shoot at it. And
Yeah. I think I would be okay with it, except for two things. One is I wouldn't want a whole line of guys.
no,
I would want maybe me and one other.
yeah,
So it's like here that way me, here that way you. But the other one is shooting hens. My color vision,
oh no, yeah,
something pops up. I can't really tell that
Yeah.
much. I mean, they're going to have longer feathers, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, just not going to take a chance because I'd probably end up shooting some hens. And so I just not.
yeah. I never even thought of that with you, but yeah, I wouldn't want to do that either.
I didn't even know I was had color vision issues till I was 22 years old, going in the military, taking my physical to go in. And
It took that long for you to realize.
Yeah, and I had a 2-year degree in electronics also. So the first part of electronics is reading color codes and resistors, but I must have learned enough by association that I passed those few chapters, and then you move on to more advanced things in electronics. So I didn't really have an indicator back then. Now, I used to wire.
I was just going to ask you about your wiring. Who wired this place?
Well, it's more so the car stereo stuff. When I was in high school, I'd wire from my buddies, and I'd be underneath the dash, and I'd have one of them tell me which of this wire was the black one with the red stripe. Well, I just thought it was because it was dark underneath the dash and stuff. So still never thought of it. I'm pretty naive anyway, so I wouldn't have thought of it anyway, probably. But yeah. So I'm standing in line, and I see this guy sitting on a chair up there, and we're all in our underwear going through the physical, and I'm 15 feet back from the guy, and then 12 feet in front of him, they're flipping this book with the colored dots and stuff, and I'm not seeing anything from where I'm at, and I'm like, wow, that 15 feet must make a difference. No, I sat down in that chair, and it was my turn. They flipped through the book, couldn't read a 1. I think I guessed on 1 and made a fool of myself, but from code 1, 2, and 3. I can't imagine
what that would feel like at that age.
Yeah, code 3, color vision. So my list of jobs, and there was a computer screen at that time, barely, but my list of jobs went from this down to about that with the color vision issues. But I think that justifies me not hunting pheasants and probably shooting some hens.
Yeah.
And my buddy Jammer, we were tracking a deer. We'd found a spot, and he was testing me. He says, okay, right in this area, what do you see for blood? And there was some wide blade grass, and it was kind of shiny yet and stuff. So I was like, yeah, I see some right in here and right over here. And he said, this whole area is plastered with blood. I was like, well, thanks for being here. I sure appreciate that.
That's something that I guess I take for granted, is seeing colors. That would be different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the trees and stuff too. I mean, we're enjoying the colors of the trees now. But
you don't see that.
I see, especially the yellows, greens, brighter greens. I see that contrast a lot more. But if there's red leaves along with the green and browns, whatever, I'm not picking
like
that
the
out
sumac and stuff like that. You don't.
Yeah, I can, like riding a horse at Newton Hills. I can see, on the top. If the sumac before it drops, it really gets nice and red, but there's nothing else mixed with it and stuff, and I can see it and see that, yeah, that's red. But you put that down in amongst other stuff, and it all just blends together for me, earth tones, darker earth tones. Yeah, pretty wild.
What kind of water did you drink as a kid? Is that what?
Out of the tap.
Out of the tap.
The hog farm that I worked on, I was drinking out of his hose in the well. Found out later it's only a 30-foot well, so maybe that was it. I don't know. Oh man. So what do you have any time frames or anything as far as might be a dumb question, but when you will slow down or stop hunting, or is it just I'm going to do this until I absolutely can't do it anymore?
Well, I'll say this. My wife has a cousin that lives in Chancellor, and he still goes hunting with us, but he, the past few years, has really gotten into photography. And that's actually more of a challenge to photograph wildlife than it is to hunt it, because you're talking, your lighting and just so many different things rather than just distance, because with the type of lenses he has, I mean, you can zoom into the nose hairs of a buck, and I've actually commented to my wife that I did photography when I was much younger, and I really enjoyed it. But to just sell all my hunting stuff and just do that, and some of the wildlife photos that he has are just unreal. And it's just because he spends a lot of time outside. He's just always out with his camera. But I've carried that thing for him out there, and it's this telephoto lens that's this big and about this big around and all camouflaged, and it weighs as much, if not more, than your rifle. And I don't know, as far as a time frame, a lot of it depends on probably the family situation, the land situation out there. We're fortunate enough that, we have land that people would pay thousands of dollars to go on a hunt, and we are fortunate enough and blessed enough that, we just are able to enjoy it. And, if it's for 5 years or 10 years, I would, that day will come that, we won't be able to, and it'll be sad, but just think of all the memories we've had out there. And I take a lot of photos with my phone. I don't have a nice camera, but anymore the phones take such amazing photos anyway. But some of the sunsets and just the terrain out there. And so I've got those, you can always look through. But physically, I don't know, the way we've hunted the past few years, you can be in your 80s and still hunting a truck,
Right. I got a buddy that I bought the grinder with him, he and I, and Willow Lake, I think, is his home area. There's a guy named Toby up there. I don't know right now if he is 101.
Oh, wow.
I believe. And you made me think of him earlier when you're talking about sitting in the truck, because he will go to the land and sits in the truck way preseason, and he will just watch the herds, the singles, where they go. He knows everything about where they go and when and how. And so, but he still hunted in a tree stand into his mid-90s.
Oh,
and,
wow.
One story, I got another buddy, Jose, common buddy, with another guy that's on the bar here. He would go hunting over at Willow Lake with his buddy there. So he found a spot where he put his tree stand in, of course, nice and high, and all that. Well, I don't think Toby noticed it, but Toby went to that same spot and put his tree stand up, same tree.
Oh my gosh.
It was like 8 feet farther down. He didn't even notice the Jose stand there. So Jose comes out the next morning and he looks up and he sees Toby standing. He's like, well, guess I'm going to go find a different tree.
Oh my gosh.
It was, but 90-some still putting that up on his own. And then now he's not doing that anymore, but he'll do the truck hunting. But he just takes his time and just enjoys nature. It's just pretty sweet having a guy that old living on his own yet, driving yet, and hunting.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Really cool.
I hope that is the case for both of us. To have your mental capabilities and physically able to do that still, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
No, we don't. It's not like we necessarily hunt out of the truck. We don't shoot out of the truck or anything like that. But we'll sit in there for hours and there'll be some that just come up behind us and they'll be like right outside our door, and and then there's times, if it's nice out. I'm not saying we always sit in the truck, but last year especially, we had some beautiful days out there and evenings where the wind really went down, and you get all camouflaged up, and there's a place up there that has an old house and just, junk in the yard, your typical West River farm homes and just stuff that was left behind. And you get into that and just sit there. And as the sun starts going further down, it's like the land just comes alive, and all of a sudden there's just stuff moving all around you. And I had deer within 5 feet of me. I mean, you could just see their eyelashes and everything. That's how close they were, and they didn't have a clue you were there. And I don't know. To me, that's more fun than shooting something when you can get that close and you can hear them breathe. And
There's a lot of videos if you search YouTube I saw one just the other day of this huge elk. I mean, right there,
Oh, man.
nose right there. It was absolutely huge. And yeah, there's a lot of cool videos.
when you can hear your heart, and you're like, they can't hear that. I can feel it, And to me, that's what's getting to be more and more fun, is just seeing how close you can get to something like that. And
do you do anything special with your clothing or non-scented soaps?
I don't get
sprays?
too extreme. There is a spray that if I remember, I'll spray myself down. I don't know. It must work. I guess I got that close, but there's been other times where I've neglected to spray myself down and still get close. I think a lot of it's the wind direction too, but yeah, some guys get crazy with that stuff,
Yep. Then there's a couple others that are like, you don't need any of that stuff.
No.
Just get out and hunt. The worst thing, the main thing is you're not going to get anything sleeping in your bed. You got to get out there.
Up.
You got to be willing to get up early,
And that I've found the past couple of years, I mean, before that first day is like Christmas morning. I mean, you're up, boom. And then as the week, I'm out there, the past few years have been 2 weeks. So by the second week, it's like, I don't know if I really want to get before the sun's up. I already got my deer. It's not as fun. You start to...
There's nothing wrong with adjusting like that.
No.
And I only shoot in the morning. I don't shoot at the end of the day. I don't want to be out there with a flashlight, looking. Maybe if I had one of those lights where it makes blood shine out, maybe that would be the thing. But
I don't even know why I go out in the morning. I can't remember the last time I shot a deer in the morning. Well, there was one, was it 3 years ago? 3 or 4 years ago, I woke up, had to use restrooms, so I zip open the tent, and it's just barely getting light out. I go out in a T-shirt and then long underwear and socks and doing my business. I look over and I'm like, oh, wow, there's deer right there. And I'm like, oh, there's a buck right there. And I'm looking at him like, and I'd been watching this whitetail buck for the past few days, just assuming it was him, and reached in my tent, loaded my gun, shot a buck that morning in my underwear, and got up to it and realized it wasn't the one I'd been, truly wanting. But the fact that I shot something while I was still in my underwear was a good story.
Oh, man. It's amazing because this isn't to show you up, but the commonality of my buddy that passed away. He was up in Alaska. I said he worked 3 weeks on and off. Then he would bring people up there to hunt. Besides hunting down here, they'd go bear hunting up there. And he had taken his gun, went out in the morning in his underwear, went over here, and he turned around, and that bear was between him and his tent. And he shot that bear in his underwear, just like you're shooting in your underwear. But holy cow. Can you imagine if he didn't have his gun with him?
No.
Wow.
And I don't know. I know now I at least have the gun closer than it was that year when I do go out in the mornings. But no, I can't imagine a bear in your, oh my gosh.
Well, like I was agreeing with you earlier, wolves and bears and camping in a tent. No, I don't. No, thanks.
No.
Not good to be doing that.
No, I would draw the line there. I have a brother that has done a lot of backwoods camping and stuff in Colorado and Montana, and gone elk hunting and mountain lion hunting and things like that. And he's just in one of those, like a little, I call it a tube tent, just the single person kind of a. I don't think I'd be able to sleep knowing that there's bear and wolves and stuff like that out there. When you hear a coyote, it's cool. It's not, like fear. But to hear a wolf or something, that would be a different story.
Yeah, no doubt. Is there any other hunts that stand out in your mind?
No, I mean, not really. I mean, I wish I had some of those cool ones where, we tracked one longhorn sheep for 2 days in a blizzard, and nothing like that. But I've had just more experiences, during the hunts or during the camping. Like last year, just to give you an idea of how well I get along with Don's cousins and stepbrothers, I had been out, and sometimes we don't necessarily hunt together. They have enough land that we might say, okay, I'm going to go out on, we have the name for this place, or they have a name for that place, and that way we know where each other's at. But then when it gets dark, we'll meet up, or we meet up in the afternoons and just sit around and talk. But so there was one night they were out there, but I was hunting by myself and came back to camp, and it was well beyond dark, and it was cold, and I was hungry, and I was just, I'm beat. I just want to eat something and just crawl in my bunk, and zipped open the tent, and all I had was my headlamp on. There's no yard lights or anything out there. So I have a headlamp on, come in, zip open my tent, and right there is this cardboard cutout of Chucky coming at you with a knife. And I probably screamed like a 5-year-old girl, and then I started laughing because it was funny, and
They didn't have a trail cam set there to try to catch it up.
Little did they know I did. And when I questioned them, they were like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And it was actually one of her stepnephews. I had photos of him pulling in on the side-by-side, getting out, putting it in my tent, and coming back, and which was awesome. I mean, they got me good. But
I was thinking about them putting a trail cam out set on video
no.
to catch your reaction.
No, and I
probably
always
would have seen it.
When I pulled in my tent into my camp, I would always park the truck in front of the trail cam, just because I know in the middle of the night, if I had to go out, I would forget it's out there, and I really didn't want to have to go through those photos. And then there was one of her stepbrothers, Lauren. He had trail cams set up all over last year, and he would never tell me where they were at because he knew I would go out and do something probably inappropriate in front of one of them or whatnot. But I've got a foam pullover like mask of a T-Rex. It's like this big, and it's just a foam thing you pull over, and you can still see. Well, I was out hunting by myself that portion of the week, and he was in Rapid City in his office, and he would get an alert every time his trail cam would go off, and I knew that. Well, I found one of his trail cams, and it was along this field, so I went and got the four-wheeler, put that T-Rex mask on, and just slowly drove in front of it, knowing that it was just click, 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 click. I never heard from him. I'm like, I know he got those. And then the next day we were hunting together, and I'm like, so did you get any notifications of, anything about 10 o'clock or, no, nothing. He swears he never got it, but I know he did. He had to get these pictures of this T-Rex driving by his trail cam. And
oh, man. That's awesome. You have that kind of personality to...
I don't know if it's awesome. It's just the maturity isn't there sometimes.
Oh, I think we've covered everything we've talked about.
Yeah, I wish I had
Is
some
there
great
anything else?
hunting stories that were just, I don't know, I just don't. But
Yeah.
that, I guess in my mind, they were a lot of fun. And just to hunt, like earlier with my son, you look back on things like that, and time just goes by too fast. You need to not take those times for granted. And I don't need to tell you that. You're a parent, you know that. And
Well, and they just stopped in while we were finishing filming there. And, young man, married
he's changed
off,
a lot.
10 years gone, now back. Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
No, I hope he gets to come out this year. Sometimes his cousins will also come out, and I know haven't seen each other for quite some time. And that's one thing nice. We just all get along so well, and you don't have the drama. You're out there to have fun, and
It's the way it's meant to be.
Yep,
A relaxing getaway.
no, I know I'm a different person when I come back, at least for a while anyway, until you start dreaming of next year. And
Now, a lot of the podcasts that we do are military-based, and Mary asked me on the way driving back over here after filming around your house if you had ever been in the military. And I said, I didn't think so.
Yeah, not with my criminal record. I have. No, I'm just kidding. No, I never did. I had a brother that was in the Navy. My dad was in the Navy, but I was never in the military.
Mm-hmm.
I often think about what that would have been like. I respect the heck out of people like yourself that have donated a lot of their portions of their lives to it. Not donated, but I mean that was your lifestyle for most of your life, and I guess I regret it sometimes because I have friends like yourself and other people that have been in it and some of the experience they've had, but I guess you can't live life regretting things like that.
No. Everybody takes their own paths, and they're all unique, and you affect people in different ways, and that's just the way that is. So,
can you tell my wife that?
What did I say? I guess I can't repeat it. Dawn, you heard it. So, did your dad talk about many of his experiences, or your brother in the Navy?
Neither one of them were in the military during war.
Yeah, I kind of wondered because your dad would have been too young for World War II.
Yeah,
I don't know where your brother would have hit.
It was way after Vietnam and way before Iraq. But like my dad, he was, and I haven't watched the video for years, but years ago, my mom had taken a lot of his home videos back then were just so poor quality compared to now. But she had that all put on a DVD for him with something like Top Gun music and stuff like that. Right. And
that's cool.
But to see he was on a carrier for quite a few years, and just to see some of that was interesting. And my brother, I guess we don't talk about a lot. When it's not during war, I don't know. It's maybe not I wouldn't say exciting. I mean, they're still away from their family and stuff. But he was on submarine leave, and he could be gone for months. And
that's rough.
I don't know if I could be underwater for that long, knowing I'm underwater. I mean,
there's a guy who's in the full-time Air Guard with. He started out in the Navy when we did a podcast here, and his name is Jake. But it was interesting hearing his experience.
Yeah, I should probably talk to him more about that, because it would be interesting just to. Oh, I don't know. I don't think I could do it. I'd probably start getting claustrophobic, even though you're in something that large. I think it would wear on you.
Well, and when you're in the military, not during wartime, you're always practicing for it. So, you're still trying to, stay tip of the spear.
Yeah.
With all your training and what your individual job is and stuff. So, kind of cool. You mentioned the preserving of the memories on DVD and things. So, usually what I ask people here is, if by chance your great-great-grandkids, who obviously are not born yet, happen to see this, and you got 15 of them sitting right underneath that center camera there, what would you like to say to your progeny, the children you haven't met yet?
Oh, man. Words of advice from Matt Nagel. That's scary. I guess just off the top of my head, and I hopefully I try to live my life like this. I would think my family and coworkers definitely would agree that, I mean, there's times in life you need to be serious, but I think there's more times that you just need to, I call it diarrhea of the mouth. I've said it before, where you just say what's on your mind, and maybe it's not appropriate. Maybe, I don't know, it's not politically correct, but just try to have fun, whatever you're doing, just don't be too serious all the time. There's times in your life, like I said, where you need to be, but it's not unhealthy to be goofy and immature sometimes. I think that's what we've kind of gone away from, and everything has to be just so politically correct with everything you say and offending someone. And I'm not saying you should go around offending people, but I would hate to be a comic right now. I mean, a comedian you can't make fun of anyone anymore. I mean, you can just make fun of yourself, and that's about it. And I do a pretty good job of that. And don't worry so much about what other people think of you. I mean, to a point. I mean, you've seen my yard. My wife, bless her heart, she tolerates what I do, and she thinks that people in that area think I'm, goofy or whatever. But I would rather be known as that goofy guy that lives on the corner than that old crusty crab guy that lives there. That when you're gone, no one misses.
Mm-hmm. Yelling at kids when they ride their bike across the corner of your lawn.
Keeping their ball when it runs in or rolls into your yard. And
well, you're definitely not that.
No.
So, all right. Well, I think we covered what we were going to talk about.
I had a lot of fun today. That was, truly enjoying just to talk about stuff. And unfortunately, it was mostly about me. So maybe that's why it was fun. I don't know.
That's why we're here. But Mary's given me crap a few times about, you really should warn people about that question at the end there and stuff.
Oh, no.
We've had some pretty funny reactions on that. But I like to see what people come up with off the cuff.
Now, for me to give advice, that's what, I don't know. It's probably not the best thing, but.
You bet. All right. Well, thanks a lot,
Yeah,
Matt.
thank you.
This was a lot of fun.
No, I'm glad you finally convinced me.
You bet. Good times.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for watching. And that's it. Did your ears get sore?
No, not too bad. I could feel it on my glasses, but no, those are actually really nice. I'll be honest with you, now I feel like I'm talking loud. You're a lot smoother than I would be.
There's times where I restart.
I know.
Over and over. I still got to find that boot saver. It's here somewhere. I'm not going to.
I won't lie. I'm going to Google that when I get home. And there's a couple people I know I'm going to make them for. I know that. I wasn't joking when I said I'd make them for Christmas gifts.
They're easy.
Yeah. Just make sure there's no splinters.
Yeah.
She had actually shot I don't even know what you want to call it. She'd shot the nuts off of the deer, and I guess most people would have jumped like that. Most men would have. Yeah. Don't get up in my grill, though, Mary.
Oh, didn't hit record. Better start over.
Son of
Oh, man. See, that's good. That's going to be a good sound bite because these things are still on.
Oh, I love my wife. My wife is so hot. Did you catch that, Don? That's going to be a good sound bite. Yeah, get that off because I'm bound to say something that could be used against me. Is my zipper down?
It is.